There are times in the year that are marked by lights, bells, and joy, the visible humming energy of celebration. But then there are times, like this one, where we enter into a quieter season, Advent, a time of waiting, a time of watching, a time of pausing long enough to notice the darkness around us and somehow, against all odds, to search for hope. Advent, in many Judeo Christian traditions, is framed as a season of expectation, a time when a weary world waits for a promise of new life. And while Unitarian Universalists hold a wide diversity of religious perspectives, some of us rooted in Christianity, some in Judaism or earth based spirituality, some in humanism, Buddhism, atheism, and a constellation of other belief systems, we still know something about waiting, about longing, about hoping when hope feels nearly impossible. And we are invited to enter into this time of waiting during the Advent season. We are confronted with a truth that is painfully relevant to our lives today. That in order to find and to create the sense of hope that we are searching for in our own journeys and in the wider world, we must often find inspiration in the darkest and most uncertain of times, much like the world as we know it today. Because these are not easy days. We do not gather in a time of simplicity or certainty. We gather in a world strained by violence, division, injustice, political upheaval, and profound grief. And yet, here we are, lighting candles in the dark. Here we are, whispering into the winter air the possibility that hope is still real. How do we make sense of a season like this? How do we wait faithfully, not passively, but faithfully, when the world around us feels so fragile? One ancient voice speaks to us from across the centuries. The teacher from Ecclesiastes, or Koheleth, who opens the third chapter of his book with a reflection we have heard many times. For everything there is a season, and for a time every purpose under heaven. This verse has echoed through history, and it arrives again today, inviting us to ask, what season is this? And what purpose does this moment hold? The book of Ecclesiastes is part of the Hebrew Bible's wisdom literature, texts that do not tell stories or issue commandments, but instead explore the complexity of living a human life. Koheleth, the teacher, is not interested in offering neat theological answers. He doesn't say everything happens for a reason or God planned it all. Instead, he looks honestly at life and says, life is complicated. Life is unpredictable. Life is cyclical. Life is full of seasons. And this is what makes Ecclesiastes so resonant for Unitarian Universalists. It does not demand a singular belief or a narrow doctrinal understanding. Instead, it opens the door to reflection and experience. It gives us permission to ask questions. It gives us permission to doubt. It gives us permission to see the world as it is, not as we wish it would be. When Koheleth writes, for everything there is a season, he is not describing a divine blueprint in which every moment has been pre-written. The Hebrew word he uses for season, zaman, means an appointed or fitting time, a time that emerges from the reality of life, not from predestination. And the word translated as purpose, chefetz, means an inclination, a matter of the heart, a human concern, not a divine decree. So when we read this verse in the UU framework, we can understand it this way. Life unfolds in rhythms. not all chosen, not all desired. But each season invites us into meaning making, compassion, and ethical response. Ecclesiastes is not telling us that everything is good. It is telling us that everything is real, and that wisdom is found in understanding how to live within the seasons we are given. During Advent, a time of darkness, waiting, and hope, that wisdom matters more than ever. Many of us come into this congregation carrying burdens heavier than we admit. Some are grieving losses that still ache. Some are navigating transitions, new diagnoses, changing relationships, financial uncertainty, anxieties about our children or the world they will inherit. Some of us carry the weight of global suffering, wars, environmental collapse, political polarization, economic inequality, the rise of hatred, and injustice directed towards vulnerable communities. We feel this weight in our bones. We are living through a season that many might call a season of darkness. Ecclesiastes does not shy away from this. It does not sugarcoat the human experience. Koheleth looks straight into the void, into mortality, injustice, absurdity, and says essentially, yes, this is part of life too. In that sense, Ecclesiastes is profoundly Advent-like. Because Advent is not about pretending the world is fine. Advent is about acknowledging the darkness and choosing to kindle hope anyway. It is about saying there is a season for grief, and this might be one of them. But there is also a season for hope, and this must be one of those too. Unitarian Universalists are not always accustomed to waiting. We are a justice-oriented people. We are doers, organizers, advocates, builders, protesters, educators, liberators. We are people of action. But waiting is not the same thing as doing nothing. Waiting, spiritually speaking, is a practice of attentiveness. It is a practice of noticing the season you are in rather than fighting against it. It is about holding still long enough to hear the wisdom of your own life. It is about recognizing that the world grows seeds in the dark, seeds we cannot yet see. In Advent, we are reminded that transformation is already happening beneath the surface. The world is waiting for something new to be born, and we are asked to participate in that waiting with intention. Not passively, not hopefully, but faithfully. We cannot rush the winter solstice. We cannot force the sun to rise. We cannot command the light to come back into the world. But we can prepare the soil. We can tend the lamp. We can be midwives of hope. Ecclesiastes also reminds us that our lives exist within the larger rhythms of the world, the interdependent web of all existence. The teacher says essentially, humans are not in control of everything. We are part of a larger unfolding. This does not diminish our agency. Instead, it contextualizes it. There are seasons we choose, like seasons of compassion, seasons of justice, seasons of joy. And then there are seasons we do not choose, like seasons of illness, grief, or societal turmoil. To live wisely is to recognize both truths. We shape the world, and the world shapes us. But Ecclesiastes invites us into a spiritual humility, an understanding that the seasons of life, both the ones we celebrate and the ones we fear, are part of a larger cosmos that moves, breathes, and evolves beyond our individual will. This is deeply you. a recognition that we are not separate from creation, but embedded in it. Many religious traditions affirm a kind of bright sunlight faith, a faith that insists that everything will always be clear, joyful, and easy. But UU spirituality at its best embraces this truth. Darkness is not the opposite of hope. Darkness is the classroom in which hope is taught. To say that this season, this messy, challenging, chaotic season, has purpose is not to celebrate the suffering or to pretend that everything happens for a reason. Instead, it is to say, even here, even now, meaning is possible. Love is possible. Hope is possible. So, how do we look at our world today with all its violence, instability, and fear and still find hope? Hope emerges when we realize the season we are in and choose to live purposefully in it. It is a practice, a discipline, a decision, and it is communal. We find hope by creating it together, by noticing the unseen ways life continues, and by tending to the most vulnerable among us. We find hope by naming the injustices of our world and working to repair them. We find hope by believing that another season is possible and in the process of creation, even if we cannot yet see it forming. Just as the people who first heard Koheleth's words knew deeply, the darkness is never the end of the story. It is the time before the dawn. So what then is the purpose of this season? If Ecclesiastes teaches us that every season has its own invitation, then what does this time, this Advent, this winter, this period of global upheaval invite us into? Our hope is not something we wait to be given. It is something we cultivate. Hope is not magic. Hope is a commitment. Hope is not passive. Hope is a practice. Hope is not denial. It is defiance. The defiance of despair, the defiance of resignation, the defiance of the idea that nothing can change. In this way, hope is profoundly Advent-like. It honors the darkness, but refuses to let the darkness define the horizon. As Rebecca Parker once wrote, in the midst of the whirling winds of change, we are held by something vast, beyond all sorrow. If every season has a purpose, then perhaps the purpose of this season is this: to become people of hope in a world that is starving for it. Not because things are easy or certain, not because the darkness is gone, but because hope is a light we kindle, not a light we wait for. And we kindle hope when we gather, week after week, lighting candles, singing songs, grieving together, laughing together, doing the slow, steady work of becoming the people our world needs. Ecclesiastes affirms that nothing is permanent, not joy, not sorrow, not fear, not despair. The seasons change. The pendulum swings. The wheel turns. And Advent reminds us that even in the deepest darkness, a seed of light is growing. We may not see it yet, but it is there. It is already becoming. It is already on its way. For everything there is a season, and a time for every purpose under heaven. May we enter this season not with fear, but with courage. Not with despair, but with faith. Not with resignation, but with a fierce and tender hope. A hope that grows in the dark. A hope that refuses to let go. A hope that we nurture together until the dawn finally breaks. May we cause it to be so. Blessed be. Amen. Shalom. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste. Thank you all so much.